A monumental $2.5 billion fertilizer deal propelled by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's unwavering vision and Aliko Dangote's commitment to African investment is set to redefine the future of the Horn of Africa's economy and farming industry. On today's roundup, we'll unpack the vast impact of this mega project, which promises a ripple effect across the entire region. We'll break down how it transforms Ethiopia into a position of power, acts as a real-world solution to food insecurity, and stitches the continent closer together through commerce, shared infrastructure, and a bold new example of homegrown progress. I'm Ganachisa Mendida, and with me are Barakat Sisai and Zelalem Yibeltal. Don't go away. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
This is really a great day for our country. Well, I just would like to begin with reminding you that the 2.5 billion Dangote fertilizer deal was signed between the Ethiopian government and, of course, this great investor, Aliko Dangote. And this is a great thing for Ethiopia and the African continent as well. So my first question for both of you is, how do you think, the Dangote fertilizer factory fundamentally transforms Ethiopia's economic position, especially moving it from an importer to a major exporter and regional industrial leader? Barakat.
Thank you very much, Gamachis, for the chance. Yesterday was actually, it was a historic day for Ethiopia. It was a monumental day for Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Investment Holding, on behalf of Ethiopian government, signed the $2.5 billion fertilizer plant building agreement with the Dangote, one of the giant company in Africa, which has been working in Africa for about almost over 30 years, and has been also working in many African countries, around like 40 African countries. It is actually a monumental day for Ethiopia in terms of revolutionizing the agriculture sector, in terms of transforming the agriculture sector, not only for Ethiopia, but also the African sector in general. But before I move on to the impacts of, the positive impacts of the industry, it's better to look at the context, the situation that we are in, Agriculture is, I think, it's one of the mainstay of Ethiopian economy, just like other African countries. A third of the GDP, the revenue, is actually coming from the agriculture sector, and 2/3 of the job opportunity also created directly or indirectly from the agriculture sector. So if you want to change the Ethiopian economy, if you want to change the social development of the country, you need to focus on the agriculture sector, because agriculture is the backbone of the economy. So I think this is the main push factor that forced the Ethiopian government to work more on the agriculture sector, specifically for the last 2 decades, and most particularly for the last few years. Ethiopia has been making a stride in terms of just increasing the productivity of the agriculture sector, both the quality and the quantity. For example, if you look at the wheat production, which is one of the success stories of Ethiopia, that Ethiopia has been able to register in the past few years. But when it comes to the general analysis of the Ethiopian agriculture sector, there are many challenges. I think one of the major challenges is related to the inputs, which is very much linked to the fertilizers. Ethiopia has been very much dependent on the imported fertilizer. And if you look at the amount of money that Ethiopia put on to import fertilizer from outside the continent, which is around $1 billion on average level. For example, if you look at the past 3 years data. So it's actually costed Ethiopia in many ways, because like if we are not going to just spend this money on fertilizer, and if you put on this money on the other sectors, it would really energize and empower the economy. But nowadays we are actually just put on and invest on just importing fertilizer from outside. So in terms of just changing this reality in Ethiopia, this fertilizer company, which is going to be, the construction going to be started soon, and it will also expected to end up after 40 months, which is roughly about 3 months, and has also the capacity of producing, 3 years, which has also the capacity of producing around 3 million ton of fertilizer per annum, which is actually almost double the amount of the Ethiopia actually now consuming by now per annum. So which is actually a major blow up for Ethiopian economy in terms of just changing, I mean, like the reality on the ground, because the material reality on the ground actually show us that the Ethiopian agriculture is actually suffer from fertilizer which is importing from outside. When you are actually depend on the imported fertilizer, there are different kind of problems. The first one is you can't actually get it on the right time. Many Ethiopian farmers are actually previously suffered from just getting this fertilizer on time, and because of this they passed the planting seasons. This is one of the problem. And the second one is even the price by itself. When you depend on fertilizer which is coming from the outside, it's really enhance your vulnerability to the outside shocks. Whenever there is the up and down of commodity price at the international level, it's really impacted the price of fertilizer as well. And for example, like if you remember, like 2 years back or 1 year back, when Ethiopia was trying to import some fertilizer from the Ukraine, from Russia, because of the war, it was disrupted. The value chain was disrupted. Ethiopia was one of the country, like other African countries, which was impacted by this outside or external shock. So this factory, which is going to be built in Ethiopia, in the eastern part of Ethiopia, in Somalia, particularly in the Gode, which is going to be one of the major company in terms of just revolutionizing and transforming the agriculture sector, not only for Ethiopia, but also Africa. One thing that I would like to mention is that even the Dangote, when he was actually given interview yesterday, he said that the company would really help Ethiopia to become exporter of fertilizer. It's changed the present status of Ethiopia being importer of fertilizer. So I think it's going to be a major milestone for Ethiopian agriculture economy.
Yes, Barakat, yes, Zelalem, you have anything to add?
Yes, lots of things to add. Yeah, and thank you so much for the opportunity. As you rightly stipulated in your beginning messages, Ethiopian government and the Dangote Group have already signed an agreement to establish an industrial plant, to establish a fertilizer factory. And as a journalist, I was trying to see the reaction of the people towards this historical news. Yesterday it was released, and I have been watching different media organizations, digital media and the mainstream media as well. And Ethiopian people have welcomed this news with a great excitement and appreciation, with a great applause. So it's a big news for Ethiopia. It's a big breakthrough for African continent as well. It has multiple implications and many benefits for Ethiopia. So as Barakat elaborated interestingly, it will increase Ethiopia's economy. It will have positive impact for Ethiopia's economy. So to begin with, this fertilizer factory, which is going to be built with a joint venture between Aliko Dangote's group and Ethiopian government, will increase Ethiopia's productivity in the first place. Fertilizer is about increasing the fertility of the soil. So if the soil is fertile, so Ethiopian farmers can produce a lot. So it will benefit, it will increase the productivity of agricultural products. Ethiopia agriculture is the backbone of Ethiopia's economy, to mean that more than a third of Ethiopian GDP is obtained from agriculture, and more than 80% of Ethiopians are engaged in agriculture. So agriculture is certainly the backbone of Ethiopia's economy. So for Ethiopia, agriculture is a matter of to be or not to be. Ethiopia's economy, Ethiopia's development aspiration, Ethiopia's overall prosperity aspiration is really depend on its agriculture. So such kind of inputs, fertilizers and other agricultural inputs will significantly boost Ethiopia's agriculture, and that will significantly boost Ethiopia's overall economy as well. So the first thing that we benefit from this fertilizer factory is, of course, productivity, increasing the productivity of agricultural products. In the second place, it will also increase the foreign exchange, the foreign currency of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is spending its money, its foreign currency, for multiple reasons, and one of the causes to in order to import food from overseas. Of course, over the last few years, Ethiopia's import of food has been decreased, has been reduced, and this is because of Ethiopia's government priority for agriculture. Like for wheat products and other agricultural products have been increased recently. But what I'm trying to say is still much remains to be done to make sure that Ethiopia stop importing food from overseas. And this fertilizer factory is going to have paramount significance in this regard. Not only this, Ethiopia is also importing fertilizer from outside. Ethiopia spent like $1 billion for fertilizer, for import of fertilizer. And this figure doesn't include the transportation cost, the transit cost, and the other logistical costs. So this fertilizer factory, which is going to be built by Dangote Group and the Ethiopian government, will significantly, stop Ethiopia's import of fertilizer. Instead, Ethiopia is going to export its fertilizer, and it's going to get other means of foreign currency. As Aliko Dangote said in an interview after the signing agreement with the Ethiopian government, this fertilizer will enable Ethiopia to produce more than what it needs. So obviously Ethiopia is going to export fertilizer for outside. So it will be a source of revenue for Ethiopia as well. It will be a source of foreign exchange, foreign currency for Ethiopia. The other benefit that we will obtain from this fertilizer factory is, of course, to be self-sufficient and to be food secure. Securing food, being self-sufficient in food is one of the policy priority for Ethiopia. So what we're gonna get from this fertilizer factory is, it will decrease, fertilizer will significantly decrease the maturity period that the grains, the crops need to mature. Therefore, that means Ethiopian farmer can produce more than 1 time a year, maybe 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times a year. So it will boost Ethiopia's self-sufficiency. In particular, Ethiopia's staple foods such as wheat, barley, maize, teff, and others will be produced in abundant manner so that it will ensure Ethiopia's self-sufficiency and food security. So there are multiple benefits by signing this agreement to build and establish a fertilizer factory, which is going to be the second largest fertilizer factory in the entire world.
In the entire African continent, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Zelalem and Barakat, you have very well explained what it means for Ethiopia to have, such a plant. I just would like to add, just some of them. I do believe that this plant, means strategic ambition, and it places Ethiopia, or it positions Ethiopia as a regional hub for this necessary product, fertilizer. Well, Aliko Dangote, during this ceremony, of course, this signing ceremony, just said that this will propel Ethiopia into a position of regional leadership. What does it mean? It means a lot, of course. We know African countries are endowed with such natural resources, natural gas, but the problem is that these countries, just don't have the finance, the technology, to be able to extract it and then, use it for different purposes, such as, producing fertilizers that is necessary for the agriculture sector. Not only necessary, it is, something very, very essential. So if we take, of course, Nigeria, thanks to Dangote, they have, just this fertilizer plant in Nigeria, but nowhere else, in the African continent, and Ethiopia is going to be the second African country to have this wonderful plant. And this, of course, will place Ethiopia in a better position more than ever, we can say. So many African countries suffered from lack of, fertilizer. As you mentioned earlier, the Ukraine war, that was, terrible. It affected the African continent badly. And for the last, years, ever since, just this war broke between Russia and Ukraine, many African countries, including, European countries, suffered a lot. So when we have, this fertilizer in our country, and especially when we are able to produce it in such a surplus manner, well, it will allow us to export it to other countries, to other African countries, and this, of course, will have economic impact, and it will bring in renaissance for the Ethiopian economy. And in this case, both Dangote and Finance Minister Ahmed Shide have, of course, given, their reactions, just to this situation, which is in terms of GDP growth. Of course, Dangote directly states that the operational plant will significantly boost, Ethiopia's GDP, and a project of this magnitude will create thousands of jobs during construction and operation. And the very good thing is that it stimulates supplementary industries. We're not going to be limited with, having this fertilizer plant. It will allow us, to establish, other plants that support the Ethiopian economy, greatly. And this will develop, local expertise in chemical engineering and industrial management. This is not, a simple thing. We have, universities that give us, graduates in chemical engineering. And I observe that these experts, just don't have jobs. So they just go to other fields that has nothing to do with chemical engineering. The problem is that, of course, we don't have, such plants. Yeah. So if we have, these plants in the country, other supplementary plants, that follow the fertilizer plant, then it will ensure jobs for thousands of Ethiopians. Yeah. Well, the other thing is, of course, foreign currency savings. You have said it very well, but I just would like to give it, emphasis here, which is foreign currency has been, a big problem. We have, shortages in foreign currency, and our banks suffer a lot from this. And if we have to import, products from elsewhere, dollar, euro, pound is, something that we always needed. And in this case, the amount of, or the money that goes into buying fertilizer from other countries will be saved, and it will be reused for strengthening, other factories that follow this fertilizer plant in the country. And it again will give Ethiopia a chance, to stop or to halt, importing commodities, just that are that need, dollars. And fertilizer, including fertilizer. We are importers of fertilizer, and we rely on imports heavily from Europe and other countries, and from Europe and other continents, or countries in Europe and in the rest of the world. And that will be saved. The other one is, of course, it is a catalyst beyond agriculture, and it is expected to boost, the agriculture sector in general. And it provides affordability, readily available fertilizer to millions of farmers. Now, the logistics will also improve. We'll be able to build, roads, for example. And one thing that our farmers suffer from is that, we don't have the infrastructure needed, to get, this fertilizer to farmers, smallholder farmers, especially in the countryside. So when the country's GDP grows, of course, the country will be able to invest its money on building, the necessary infrastructure. We have to see it, as a package, and it stimulates industry and mining. And even in this case, Dangote explicitly said it. We just will be going to gold, for example. And in recent months, or recently, we can say the Ethiopian government is investing a lot on gold mining. And recently, Prime Minister Abiy mentioned that we're having, a gold mine that will give us, billions of dollars annually. And this is, unprecedented. This is a new thing. And the role of leadership and persistence. Of course, a striking theme in Dangote's comments is the direct credit he gives to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for personally driving, just this deal to completion. We'll come back to that. And I just want to move to the next question, which is particularly what does Aliko Dangote's Pan-African investment philosophy signify for African development, and how does it contrast with traditional foreign direct investment? I mean, what's different here? When it is Dangote, when it is somebody else, what does it mean for Ethiopia, especially for African countries, in terms of Pan-African investment philosophy?
Nowadays, like in Africa, there is a code which is very much linked to that of African solution to African problems.
Exactly.
One of the problem is in the economy sector. We Africans are somehow lag behind in terms of economic developments when you compare with other continents like the European one, the Asian ones, and the American ones as well. And within this context, Dangote is actually making a stride in terms of investing in many African countries. When it comes to investment in Africa, there is a risk premium. The risk perception is very high. If you ask one investor outside of the continents, they might tell you that they're actually refraining from investing in Africa because of the negative perception that they have about Africa, because maybe somehow related to peace and security. Maybe the investment returns may not be that much attractive for them. Something like this one, because when one company change their direction, they take into consideration the opportunity cost of moving from one place to another place. When they compare or when they come to Africa to invest, they usually take into consideration the opportunity cost, and the risk premium is very negative. At the same time, it's very high, which is negatively prescribed. So the Dangote investment in Africa, not only in Ethiopia, which is redefining the investment perception of Africa, and it really tells us that government and private sector can really make a difference in Africa. For example, if you take the yesterday investment deal which was signed by the Ethiopian Investment Holding on behalf of Ethiopian government and the Dangote, which was actually the private-public partnership, which is one of the good examples in terms of just driving the African economy forward. So in that case, one thing that Dangote tell us is that there needs to be some cooperation among African countries, between institutions, at the same time among sovereign nation as well. Unless otherwise, no one is come to Africa and invest, and at the same time just rescue the problem that we have been facing by now. Of course, we have been talking about the foreign direct investments. Many European companies, many American companies, many Chinese companies, many Turkish companies are actually operating in different sectors in Africa. But still, we have the opportunity, we have the capacity to drive some African companies to come and work together and flourish in a way that can actually realize the Agenda 2063 of the Africa we want. But we are not actually that side of the story. Whenever we talk about investments, whenever we talk about foreign direct investments, we always try to look at the investment coming from the Europe or the Americans or from the Asian as well. So Dangote, for example, if you look at the interview that he was given out yesterday, he said that no one is actually come to Africa to rescue us or to help us or to support us in terms of just driving our economy forward. He was actually trying to tell us one, crude truth that it's only Africans who are actually there to work for Africans. Of course, we might have get some support from other continents, but still our fates depend on our natural resource, depend on our human resource as well. So he was saying that we Africans should work together. We need to have that sort of solidarity, that sort of support each other to bring about the needed economic and social progress in the continent. So Dangote was, I think, in that case, in the economic frontier, he can be a Pan-Africanist in that way, I would say, because whenever we say about Pan-Africanism, we always talks about politics, but in the economic as well, there has to be some sort of coming together,
Yeah, he mentions, the fact that Ethiopia hosts, the African Union.
Of course.
And he's an African, so
Yes.
as an African, he wants to contribute to Ethiopia's economic development, and he wants to come up with, other investments.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to be limited with this particular investment. He's been investing in cement.
Yeah.
He wants to invest in gold and in others as well.
Yeah.
which shows that, he considers Ethiopia as his country as well. Yeah, we can say.
He also mentioned that Ethiopia is one of the best candidates when it comes to investment, because of its special position in terms of having a natural resource. For example, we have never think of that Ethiopia has the natural gas, but nowadays we have discovered and we have it. And we have also different kind of natural resources, and we have to leverage that opportunity. I think he deep down in terms of just finding the truth about Ethiopia, and if he finally decided to invest in Ethiopia. But one thing that we have to take from his action is that, working with African countries is one thing that we have to take from his action. He has been working on around 14 African countries. He's been doing investment in 40 African countries. So that's a lot, for the progress, for the development that we are actually aspire, maybe like after 50 years, as it has been outlined in the Agenda 2063, working together is one thing. So what Dangote is doing now in Ethiopia is something was emulating by other African countries as well.
Yes. Zelalem, do you want to add?
Yes. Let me add a few points on this. Aliko Dangote is the richest person, the wealthiest person in the continent. And he's originally from Nigeria, from West Africa, and he comes all the way to East Africa, to Ethiopia, to invest in Ethiopia, to work together with Ethiopia and to prosper together, to ensure mutual benefits with Ethiopia, with Ethiopian people and with Ethiopian government. And he has been also investing in other sectors apart from fertilizer, in cement factory, for example. So one thing that we learn from Aliko Dangote is we need to believe in the resource of Africa. We need to believe in the power of Africa. We need to believe in the knowledge of Africa. We need to see Africa in the lens of investment. We need to see Africans in the lens of knowledge and science. We should believe in ourselves. We should trust in ourselves. Unless we do our assignment, who's going to do our assignment? So we have to do our assignment, and we need to engage, and we need to integrate. And one of the finest things that Aliko Dangote teach other African business people, other African politicians and leaders and stakeholders is working with African brothers and believe in the power of Africans as well. So we need to live by, and we need to pursue the footsteps of African forefathers like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Sekou Touré of Guinea, and Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. Our forefathers, dreamed a prosperous Africa, and more than that, they dreamed of a united Africa. And they used to believe that the independence of one African nation is the independence of the entire Africa, and the colonization of one African country, the colonization and slavery of other African nations. So the destiny of Africa is one and the same. So we need to work together in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, in the spirit of brotherhood. And Aliko Dangote, the wealthiest person in Africa, has already demonstrated this. And, today the war is over economy. Today the war is over poverty. Some 5-6 decades ago, Africans were in colonization. So that time the struggle and the war, the battle was to expel colonizers, to fight colonizers. And the way to battle them, the way to fight them is through bullet, maybe through demonstrations, through opposition and others. But now the fight is over economy, and the fight is over ensuring economic independence. Without ensuring economic independence, without ensuring food sovereignty, without ensuring self-sufficiency in food, we can't claim our national sovereignty. So it's very much linked to our sovereignty, it's existential issue for Africa. So it's high time that Africa needs to work in collaboration in terms of economic integration, in terms of trade, in terms of investment. If you see, for example, the trade trends, Africans tend to trade more with Europe and America and other continents than with each other. I was shocked by latest data that shows that the coal from Ghana to Nigeria is more expensive than the coal from Ghana to the United States. So Africans are engaging and interacting with outside world, out of their continent, than with each other. So Aliko Dangote has taught this lesson, working with African brothers and prospering with Africans and ensuring mutual benefits.
Yes, well, I think I just want you to just to go back to some decades, some years, and see how the Ethiopian government has been treating or was treating such investors. The regulations, the investment regulations have been very strict, and they were not, encouraging for investors to come to Ethiopia and then, invest such a huge finance on such important plants, such as this fertilizer plant. And very recently, the Ethiopian government is, making, just these regulations just come to a level where they are so loose to attract investors. And I believe, just this is, just one of them. I mean, this particular deal, the fertilizer deal, took place, because of the government's commitment to invite, to attract investors. So we can say, political will and commitment from our leaders, of course, impacts how investors, such global investors, just look at Ethiopia as a hub for investment. And I just want you to go to the situation where Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's commitment for this particular signing could be, considered. How do you consider it? Political will is very important, and the political will from the Ethiopian government, specifically from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, must have been, great, potent to attract such an investment and to allow this signing. And of course, Dangote has said, a few things about the role of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in this particular deal. What do you say, Barakat?
I mean, like at the general level, the government is very much open about the investment of the foreigners to come to Ethiopia and invest. For example, if you look at the macroeconomic reform, which has been practicing or implementing for the past 2 years, has been actually putting Ethiopia on a good position in terms of just attracting investments to Ethiopia at a different level. But when it comes to this specific project, even Dangote was saying that if Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hadn't been on his neck, it wouldn't have been possible.
The neck factor.
The neck factor would
exactly.
be, I think it tells you that the Prime Minister was at the forefront of just negotiating and making deals with the Dangote at his personal capacity, at his personal level, which tells you that the Prime Minister is actually committed to bring about such a kind of mega project, which would have a huge potential in terms of just transforming, as we have been discussing about, in terms of changing the agriculture sector, which has a ripple effect, not only the agriculture sector, but also the manufacturing, the service sector, and other sector as well. So I think Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed needs to be appreciated in this level because of bringing about, making this still happen to be the case in Ethiopia. Of course, it's going to be realized in the few years, after 3 years, and then it will also going to beat its goal, I think. This is what I want to say in this case.
Yeah, we have watched the interview, the full interview that Aliko Dangote made, and in that interview, in that exclusive interview, Aliko Dangote has openly said that Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, has insisted him and of course encouraged him to establish the fertilizer industry, fertilizer factory here in Ethiopia. So Ethiopian Prime Minister, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed is the factor for Aliko Dangote to come to Ethiopia and to invest in fertilizer factory. Of course, Ethiopian government has made things workable. Ethiopian government has made the investment climate very much conducive for foreign investors, and in particular, the current Ethiopian government is very much keen to work with African leaders, with African investors, with African business people, and with Africans influential people. So lots of conferences, lots of symposiums are being conducted here in Addis Ababa, and the purpose of which is to bring sense of unity within Africa. And with that path, Aliko Dangote has been investing in Ethiopia hugely. By the way, he said that Ethiopia is the next investment destination for Aliko Dangote's group, next to Nigeria. He said that Ethiopia's investment is the most promising investment the most promising overseas investment next to his home country, Nigeria. And that clearly shows that Ethiopia has made its door very much open to foreign investors.
Yeah, good. Well, obviously, just this fertilizer plant will have upcoming, implications, and especially if we are able to realize it, of course, it replicates itself into various aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I just take you back to the situation, like, 14 years ago, when Ethiopia wanted to build the Renaissance Dam. At that time, Ethiopian leaders were seeking, financial support from international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF. And of course, the Ethiopian government was not welcomed by these institutions. So the then government mobilized the country's resources and then, take the initiative to lay the foundation for the Renaissance Dam. And at that time, financial constraint was, just one big issue for the country. But when it comes to this particular situation, this fertilizer plant, signing of this fertilizer plant, well, it will have implications, obviously, and it replicates in different ways. And how do you think, just the benefit or the financial boost following this fertilizer plant will give to Ethiopia in the future?
As I've said, for example, if you look at the amount of money,
the ripple effect.
I know. Just to give you some data about what we have been talking about, because Ethiopia economy has been dependent on the importation of fertilizers. For example, if you look at for the past 3 years, the average annual expense of the Ethiopian government for the importation of fertilizer was around $1 billion. So after 3 years from now on, when this company is going to operational, Ethiopia will cease the importation of fertilizers. So the amount of money that Ethiopia was compelled to pay for the importation of fertilizers will redirect to another developmental endeavors, another infrastructure development. For example, you have said that like previously we have been suffering in terms of just gaining some financial support from the international financial institutions, because we don't have domestic resource to finance the Great Renaissance Dam. So this is actually still one of the major factors when it comes to Ethiopian economies. We don't have that much capital, specifically when you look at the foreign currency reserves. But when this company is going to be operational, and when we are actually producing like much amount of fertilizers, and when we stop importing fertilizers, and when we start exporting fertilizers to other African countries, and when we gain some financial gains by exporting these fertilizers, I think the amount of money that we can get from, or the amount of money that we earn from exporting will actually go to developing other kind of infrastructure projects. For example, it might go to the expansion of the industries, the manufacturing. It will also going to finance other developmental projects. For example, it might be on roads, maybe the rail linkage. It might also go to the other aspect of transportation systems as well. And in terms of just redirecting the money that we have been, putting to importing fertilizer from outside, and now we will get the chance to redirect to the other aspect. So I think it's going to be, it's going to have like a huge impact in terms of just enhancing the amount of money that Ethiopia gets from exporting such a kind of products to the other African countries.
Yes, Barakat. Zelalem, I just want to ask you how this might allow the realization of UN Sustainable Development Goal 2, especially in eradicating hunger by 2030 and in meeting, the goals of Agenda 2063.
Exactly. So African Union, the United Nations, and every single African countries do have plans to end hunger and starvation by 2030. So this is a big agenda. I mean, this is a big strategy. This is a big goal, and that needs commitment and that needs dedication from African governments and from African leaders and farmers and from every stakeholders of agriculture. In fact, we need to do a lot on agriculture. It's through agriculture that we can end hunger and starvation by 2030. So this factory, this fertilizer factory, is going to be built by joint venture by Ethiopian government and Aliko Dangote Group, is going to significantly enhance Ethiopia's capacity, Africa's capacity to end hunger by 2030. You know, a few months ago, I held interview with African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, Moses Velakati. So in my interview with Moses Velakati, he said that two important points he raised there in the interview. And one of the points is African governments need to invest in technology. African governments need to put a great deal of money and investment in technology, like in smart agriculture, in precision farming, in fertilizer. So fertilizer is one of the input, one of the agricultural technology that could enhance agricultural productivity. So we need to invest in technology, as AU Commissioner said. And he also highlighted that investing in agricultural technology is not an easy task, but it is imperative for African governments that they should invest in agricultural technology, because like Ethiopia, many African countries, almost all African countries, very much depend on agriculture. Like here in Ethiopia, in every other African countries, agriculture is the backbone. So if agricultural sector, if the agriculture is boosted, developed and prosperous, it can impact other sectors. It can impact the service sector, it can impact the industry. You know, for example, if you want to run industry, you need to have a surplus product of grains and crops for industry to run and function well. So we need to invest in technology, and that technology will certainly increase the productivity of agriculture. So one of the things that AU Commissioner Moses Velakati raised was we need to invest in technology. So such kind of technology by Aliko Dangote and the Ethiopian government will significantly boost agriculture. And the other beautiful insights and idea that AU Commissioner Moses Velakati spoke was about the need to transform from agriculture to agribusiness. This is very important. You know, agriculture is when Ethiopian farmers practice as a culture, as a tradition. For example, in every rainy seasons, Ethiopian farmers, African farmers go to the farm and practice farming. That's agriculture. And Moses Velakati, AU Commissioner, recommends that we need to transform to agribusiness. When it's agribusiness, you know, Ethiopian farmers, African farmers are going to work for business. They need to make business out of farming. So we need to move away from that tradition, that culture of agriculture, that tradition of farming to business kind of farming. So the two are the most important points that raised in my interview with Moses Velakati. So what I'm trying to say is such kind of a fertilizer factory will significantly enhance agricultural productivity. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to add to what the both of you have said. This plant, of course, will help us or will allow us addressing, you know, in the core constraint of low yields. We know that fertilizer is, you know, one of the most important essential inputs for the farmers. Unfortunately, Ethiopia and many African countries have been suffering from lack of adequate fertilizer or supply of fertilizers in general. So this will address, you know, just this challenge. And secondly, following such supply of, you know, fertilizers to our farmers, there will obviously come stability and affordability. Farmers will have, you know, a stable supply of fertilizer, and this will allow them to buy fertilizers with affordable prices. And the other thing is, of course, following this again, Ethiopia and other African countries will be able to produce surplusly. And of course, this will transform them from food aid to food self-sufficiency. Yeah, this is a very important point. And the other thing that I just want to add to what the both of you have said is it will play a crucial role in meeting the goals of Agenda 2063, and of course it will allow us to meet our aspirations, a variety of aspirations. In the first case, we have an aspiration of having a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. This means that this plant will help us become industrialized, yeah, and it will add just value to what we produce. Look, Ethiopia is attempting to utilize its natural gas resource. It will turn it into fertilizer and other pertinent products. And many African countries have such natural resources, but the problem is that due to lack of investments that are as huge as this, 2.67 billion dollars, they just couldn't use just their resources. But Ethiopia is just trying, attempting, putting its effort to utilize such ample natural resource, and it is value adding to the natural resource that it has. And this will allow us to modernize the agriculture sector in general, and it directly enables the modernization of the continent's most important sector. As you've already mentioned, agriculture is the backbone of Ethiopia's economy, and the same applies to other countries in Africa as well. And the second is, of course, an integrated continent, politically united. Yeah, when African countries are able to become producers, then they can export their produces to other African countries, and of course this will allow them to have political integration, economic integration, and following this, of course, cultural integration is likely just to take place. And the third aspiration is, of course, an Africa of good governance, democracy, and peace. Yeah, when you address just your economic issues, of course people converge, people come together, and they engage in productive activities than in any destructive one. And this will, of course, realize economic inclusion. Large-scale industrial products can be a stabilizing force here. And the aspiration that follows is, of course, Africa as a strong, resilient, and influential global partner. And this is very important. The voice Africa has in international stage has been very low, minimal, has been very minimal. But when it gets economically strong, then it will have the currency to defend its interests and to strengthen its positions. And foreigners will not come and develop our economy. I'm an African, and we Africans need to coordinate our efforts, need to come together, need to combine our resources to change the status of Africa. This is what he repeatedly said recently during just this signing ceremony. Well, I just want to go to the next question, and we might have challenges, logistical challenges, and educational challenges. It's not an easy thing to implement this particular plant. And my question is, of course, what do you think are the challenges, and what measures and precautions need to be taken by the Ethiopian government to ensure that just this deal comes to reality?
I think for me, I'm not seeing any problems when it comes to domestically, specifically when you come to the logistics part. Maybe the problems it might arise from, as you have been mentioning about, maybe the skilled human power, maybe one of the challenge. The other going to be, for example, the project is going to be the cross-border project, which which is going to be not only confined to the Ethiopian needs and
exactly. That's
wants.
why. That's why, you know, there might be, you know, challenges that follow, because there are actors.
Yes.
Yeah, and you need to deal with them, and there must be, you know, some kind of binding law regulation.
Yeah.
When something, you know, just gets out of your hands and then is also affected by others, challenges might be, you know, something you cannot avoid.
Yeah.
And so to avoid those challenges, you know, what should be done by the Ethiopian government, by Dangote, etc.
Yeah, maybe like Dangote is one of the success story when it comes to investment in Africa. We haven't seen any negative stories about what Dangote is actually doing in many African countries. Like all in all, we can say that's positive about Dangote production, Dangote investment in Africa. Maybe the problem, it might arise from, for example, it might not go along with the plan. You know, for example, sometimes, investment, it takes time. You know, throughout the process, you may not able to get what you need to like properly leading your investment. The first one, it might be like finance, and second one is the human skill power, and the other one is you don't really know. You know, everything is not going to be remain constant. You know, we are actually living in a very changing world. You know, the outside world is very changing. You know, the geopolitical situation is very tense. Ethiopia is, as part of the international community, very much vulnerable to the external shocks because its economies depend on the outside world. So such a kind of impact would have a negative, at the same time positive impact on the investment process of this fertilizer company. But what I would like to mention is maybe one of the critical challenge when it comes to the implementation of this project is going to be the cross-border infrastructural problems. You know, because it's going to be, I mean, like the project is not, as I've said, not confined to the Ethiopian as well. You know, it's going to be a continental project. You know, Ethiopia may be expected to export this fertilizer to other neighboring countries, other African countries. But in that case, as Africa Union has been mentioning about, you know, there is a lack of cross-border infrastructure projects when it comes to the road, when it comes to the free movement of peoples, and something like this one. So this is, I think, one of the challenge, and it's not only confined to Ethiopia as well. It is the problem is being shared by other neighboring countries as well, and other African countries as well. So the solution would be collaboration, partnership with other African countries, because what Ethiopia is doing is not only for Ethiopia, but also other African countries. So in that case, other African countries should come together and find some amicable solution for such a kind of challenge. Yeah,
by the way, the system that follows, you know, just this plant to meet its goals is one important thing. Of course, I'm not saying the Ethiopian government and other governments in the African continent are not looking into this very well. I just do hope that they'll be looking into it. But as a reminder for everyone, I just want to think of, you know, the logistics and distribution. For example, you could produce it, you know, in Gode, in Ethiopia, and then you need to find, you know, just a manageable way, you know, to distribute it to its destination, both in Ethiopia and abroad. Yeah.
Yes.
And so this requires, as you said, of course, the infrastructure, roads, and even, you know, political will here also plays a big role. And farmers need to be educated as far as the use of fertilizers is concerned. And obviously many farmers, both in Ethiopia and many parts of Africa, are going to be new to the use of fertilizer because we've suffered from insufficient fertilizers, and many farmers have not been, you know, familiar with the use of fertilizers. But when you make it available for them, and when they start to use it, you need to educate them to use it properly. When it is not properly used, it doesn't yield, it doesn't give you the kind of outcome you want. Yeah. So this is, you know, one thing that needs to be, you know, considered very well by various administrations, various authorities, and everyone, actors, you know, just in the system. Yeah. economic policies, governments must ensure policies, that are in place to make the fertilizer affordable for farmers. And the farmers, just need to get it, need to have access to it, and they need to be able to purchase it, to buy it with affordable prices. And one big problem is, just the actors in between. Yeah, they just, take it from the government or from the wholesale seller, and then they hold it. Yeah, and then, just they add unreasonable price, and then they just, sell it to farmers. And our farmers have been suffering from this. Yep. It is a fact that we remember from recent years, months. Yeah. So this needs to be looked into very well by the people concerned. Yeah, by institutions concerned. Well, let me take you back to the point you just mentioned, both of you mentioned, earlier, which is, I just want the both of you to tell us, how this $2.5 billion Dangote fertilizer deal impacts, integration of African nations in various spheres.
Yeah.
Market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me add, let me step into this question. When you look at the inter-Africa trades, or the trades among African countries, which is well below 40%, and that's why the African Free Trade Area is actually created to revolutionize and to create a single market for African goods and service. And one of the major problems when it comes to the inter-African trade is because there's lack of commodities. You have the single market, you have the markets, but you don't have anything to exchange each other. This is one of the main problems when it comes to Africa. It's not only confined to the agriculture product as well, to that of even like the outputs from the manufacturing sector as well. There is a lack of manufactured out of products. So the major problem is the lack of problems, the lack of commodities, the lack of outputs from the agriculture sector. So after you have created the market, you need to have something to transact each other, to exchange each other. So in that regard, this fertilizers company would actually increase the productivity of the African farmers, not only for Ethiopia, but also other African farmers, in terms of increasing the crop yields. And that would also increase the the amount of product that's going to be exchanged each other, And the other one is, for example, if you look at some of the beverage-related manufacturing sectors, or some of the food processing companies are actually depend on the agriculture sector for their inputs. So these fertilizer companies, in terms of just increasing the productivity of the farmers, increasing or enhancing crop yields, it would also contribute very much for the enhancing the availability of inputs for these manufacturing sectors, so that they can produce a large amount of products in terms of, for example, it might be biscuits, it might be some other food-related products, and it might be some sort of beverage-related products, so that they can easily, exchange each other. So in terms of just enhancing or fostering like the trade linkage about between and among African countries, this fertilizer company would really play a significant role.
Zelalem, you have anything to add?
Yes, this $2.5 billion is mega project in Africa. So upon its completion, it's gonna satisfy the demands of Ethiopian fertilizer. It's gonna produce more than what Ethiopia demands and what Ethiopia needs. That means Ethiopia will certainly export fertilizer for neighboring countries. So the whole of African countries will benefit very much from this fertilizer factory. It's going to be built here in Ethiopia, in Somali region of the country. So it has paramount importance. So I believe that African business people, African leaders need to work hard to bring about integration. You know, integration can't come by word and by speaking. You know, this day it's fashionable to watch African leaders and African business people, African influential people to come to the podium and speak about integration. Africa needs to be integrated. Africa needs unity. Africa needs solidarity. But those influential people and African leaders need to walk the talk. You know, so this is a practical step to ensure integration in Africa. You know, such kind of investment will certainly intensify integration between and among African nations, and we badly need that. You know, we need to work collaboratively. Recently, I was very much shocked by latest data and statistics that indicates that 1 in 5 people in Africa is in hunger and starvation. You know, 1 in 5 people. That means, you know, currently the population of Africa is like 1.4, 1.5 billion people. So roughly 30 million Africans are in hunger and starvation. This is worrisome, isn't it? So African governments, African business people like Aliko Dangote need to work very hard. You know, this is something that we can eradicate. This is something that we can eliminate. You know, eliminating hunger should not be rocket science for Africans. You know, others did it. European did it. American did it. If they did it, why we can't? So we can do it. So such kind of practical projects by Aliko Dangote and Ethiopian government need to be replicated in other African countries as well. And we need to ensure our independence, our sovereignty. Like I said before, we can ensure our national sovereignty by ensuring and by realizing our economic independence. We are in the age of neoliberalism, where rich nations, where wealthy nations of the world are impacting and influencing policies in Africa and in other poor nations of the world. So we need to withstand such influence by ensuring our economic independence, and it's imperative that African business people like Aliko Dangote need to, need to invest in Africa and need to need to help Africans ensure food self-sufficiency and food sovereignty.
Yeah, it's an assignment for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, political will must be there. Yeah, actors such as, Dangote need to come in. They need to be invited to play their peculiar roles, and by so doing, we'll be able to come to the realization of Agenda 2063, and to meet, just the goal which we set by 2030 to eradicate poverty and hunger. To eradicate hunger.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, Barakat and Zelalem, thank you very much. And I think we wrap it here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, thank you very much. And today's program ends right here. Next time we'll come up with another one. Until then, goodbye.